Brunch culture.
We want to talk about faith. We want to talk about politics. We want to talk about race. We want to talk about pop culture. Literally, everything is up for discussion, and that's what brunch culture is about. It's
about a thing. Feel real good with your hands in the air and lick 2 shots in the air.
Brunch culture. Brunch culture. Brunch culture. Brunch culture.
She's Lisa V.
And he's Randall Keith.
And this is Brunch Culture, the show where everything is up for discussion, and we are back for another week, guys. We are here. It's Brunch Culture time.
And before we celebrate, we should celebrate 4 years of brunch culture.
Yo, 4 years. Like, I still can't believe when I text you the other day, I looked at my calendar. I was like, cause it's always on my best friend's birthday. We started on my best friend's birthday, but I looked at my calendar and I was like, wait, it's been 4 years, yo. Like, time literally has flown by.
Time keeps on ticking.
Exactly.
Into the future.
And just think about, we just had like, I feel like we had so many things to talk about, but I still feel that we have talked about, but I still feel like it's so much to discuss, like always. And it's like,
because stuff keeps happening, you know, like Dennis Rodman crying on CNN with Chris Cuomo will forever be etched in my memory as one of the funniest CNN moments that I've ever seen.
Yo, I feel like a lot of people didn't see it, because I expected to see memes like crazy, or at least GIFs like crazy. Like, I saw it, I think from Instagram. Maybe I saw it because, did you post it on IG? Because I only saw it
No,
once.
I posted it on Twitter because I was watching. It was happening early in the morning, and I happened I'm talking about like 2 in the morning, because you know they were on Singapore time, and I just happened to be watching. My TV is usually always on CNN, so I'm watching it, and I'm just like, "What? Why is he crying?"
Dying.
And it's like, I tweeted, "Is anybody else watching this right now?" Because I know most people sleep, but it was just like crazy. But you know, I have a close friend that's 25, and he didn't even really know who Dennis Rodman was. And I was like, I feel old right now, because obviously you played with Michael Jordan. He did the thing with Carmen Electra, and he wore the dress in the wedding, and he had like no idea what I was talking about. And I was just like, oh wow, that is really an age difference.
Right. When you think about it, Dennis Rodman he was like a social media star. Like, yes, he was an athlete, so I'm not taking that away from him, but he was a social media star before there was like social media. Because I remember seeing, like, you used to go to the grocery store and you see all the magazines, and he would be on it, him and Carmen Electra. I remember their whole relationship used to play out a lot on MTV. They were always doing some sort of behind the scenes with Dennis Rodman and Carmen Electra. Of course, that whole infamous wedding, him wearing the wedding dress and that being like a big thing. So I feel like if social media was big back then, he would be everywhere. So he probably is kind of like
star of social media.
Yeah, he kind of is probably like a social media star for us, like the equivalent for back then.
Yeah, his skin looked leathery. Was that?
You so disrespectful, yo. You so.
But do you know what I'm talking about?
No, it really does. No, so no, because
everybody.
Yeah, no,
everybody
because seriously, you know, the whole like black don't crack, and then you look at Dennis Rodman, it's like
cracking. It's leather.
like it's like getting thick, and it's like, wait, what's happening? But Dennis Rodman didn't always look like that, though, right?
And I don't feel like he always talked like that either.
Yeah, I think it's just and that's what it's like. It has to be. I think he really was. I think at a point in time, I remember, obviously it was years ago, but I remember hearing that him and Carmen Electra used to be on drugs, and maybe that's why she left him, because he was on drugs.
I don't think it's past tense though.
So you think the Leatherface plus the tears was a combination of his drug use?
Yeah, I think it's present.
He was
'cause I'm just
legit.
like,
He was legit, but hurt though about. Well, I don't even know because it was like tears of joy, wasn't it? Like from the clip that I saw, it was supposed to be like tears of
I
joy.
I don't know.
But I know.
No, he was frustrated because people had abandoned him.
Yeah, that's what
And
I
he was like, President Obama didn't take him seriously. And I'm just like, but do you really think President Obama thinks you should be the liaison for America and North Korea in this volatile state?
Because even in this space, like, can we really consider Dennis Rodman the liaison of what happened? Like, I think that
Well, obviously he thinks he is.
because I think that. So I could say the credit that I can give him is like, I guess he normalized Kim Jong Un. Like he tried to push for people to see him in a different light, and maybe in this way that, you know, your current president likes celebrity. Maybe that did have some sort of impact, some sort of back end impact. But I guess in that I would think like, well, Dennis Rodman is not really, obviously he's a celebrity, but like you said, you have somebody that's 25 that is still considered a millennial. They barely know who that is. So I don't really know if maybe he's giving himself a little bit more credit than what he needed, but he was like, you know, and people abandoned me and they didn't believe me. They didn't respect me. And I'm just so happy that we're at this moment because I always knew it could happen. And I was like, bruh, you like for real crying though? Like, and Chris Cuomo, his face was like, wait, what? I actually thought, to the point that I thought the clip when they first switched to Chris Cuomo's face, I thought it was something that somebody had edited in. I didn't know that.
Oh,
like,
you didn't know that it really happened on live TV.
I didn't know that it really happened on live TV. And I was like, this explains why he's looking like, wait, are these tears? Is this dude? Bro, you gonna cry? Like, that's what we doing? Oh, okay.
And it just was so unexpected. The crying, and it was like it wasn't like fake tears. He like had water coming
legit,
out.
Yeah,
like,
he was legit emotional about this.
Yeah, I was like, you got some other things going on. But you know what? I don't know. It's just weird. His relationship with Kim Jong Un obsession with Dennis Rodman. It's like, what y'all got going on?
It was really interesting too because Chris Cuomo asked him, does he understand English? And he said no. And he didn't, first off, he didn't say no. He kind of like evaded the question. He didn't say anything. He kind of talked around it. Then he was like, so, you know, I'm going to ask you again, if you were to try to speak to him in English directly, can he understand English? And he said, only if you talk about basketball.
What?
Right. And so while, like, you know, obviously there can be translators there, I don't know how much of like, because he seemed to be really like, you know, this is my homie and we have a good time. The translator like translating the jokes too, and like, are they coming across the same? Because I think on top of a language difference, there's obviously a cultural difference as well. So like, y'all kicking it because y'all homeboys, but you saying like he just understand like if you just talk about basketball, but somehow you were supposed to be like the liaison. Like, I just don't. It's not really adding up.
Doesn't make
bro.
sense.
Yeah, it's not really adding up, bro. I don't really know. But obviously, his work meant a lot to him because he was boohoo crying on national TV. So,
and I'm like, do you know this man a killer? He acting like he's a good man.
all of them are actually like not. I think it is interesting seeing the interviews where you have Trump say things like, "Oh, you know, he's what did he say? He's a sharp guy. He's impressive." And as a country, we've always been very hard on dictators. We've always had, or at least in a public way, we've had this kind of general consensus of, you know, the beauty of being in a democracy is that, you know, there's not one person that runs the ship. We don't all answer to just one person. We have all of these freedoms and liberties. And so, you know, to have somebody, our leader, say that, oh yeah, he's a great person. It's like, well, do you realize that he's a dictator, fam? Like, how do those two exist together? It's just, I don't know. I don't think we're having, as we rarely do, we're not having the right conversations, and then the person that is having the conversations don't seem to be doing what they once said. Like, he was so hard on him before, and like, oh, you know, America's going to take the stand and we're just not going to take this, and there's so much force that we can use, and if we're going to force North Korea to end their nuclear mission, their nuclear development, and now it's just kind of like, oh yeah, this is my homeboy, we cool, everything's all right.
It's very, 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 very interesting. I don't know where our country is headed,
to say the least. And then we have Target.
That people are saying that they think that he can actually win again. And honestly, if the Democrats don't put up a good candidate, he may win because people just won't go vote. You know? Yeah,
I honestly, and I think I said this before, even here, I wouldn't be surprised if he won for another term. And I think for me, having, you know, seeing things like this, which it's a little kind of challenging for me, because on one end you can see like, hey, you know, North Korea is ridding themselves of nuclear weapons. That's great, right? So that is definitely, it's a good thing across the board. But then I think that you kind of pause and say, okay, so what comes with this? And that's just kind of my thing with this administration. Is like, okay, so what's going to come with this, and what's the back end? And maybe the back end is that I get to use this during the next election cycle to say, like, here's the work that I've been able to do. I've made the country and the world more safe by being able to do this. I think that's it. But then you start to think about the Kim Kardashian alignment and the Kanye West alignment. And to me, it starts to, I don't know. It just makes me really uncomfortable, because it's like, you know, while we can see that there are things that are good, I think that I don't want people to get so relaxed that we just kind of become complacent, because there are other things, i.e. Jeff Sessions, that are happening that's just not good, right? And we know that they're not good. And this is a part of this administration's consistent kind of mishaps and not considering people of color and people that are really being harmed and affected by the policies that are coming forth. And so I don't want us to get like confused. I don't want us to take like one good thing or two or three good things as like, oh, we know it ain't that bad. No, it still is that bad. And we still need to be equally as critical, and we can, you know, appreciate and say like, hey, kudos for this good thing that you're doing here. But what about this? And are we going to address immigration in a meaningful way, in a ethical way? Are we going to address police brutality in an ethical, considerate way? Or are we going to continue to try to leverage celebrities and the people that support them by saying like, oh, I'm aligned with them, or they're cool with me, or look what I did for them. I scratch your back, you scratch mine, which I kind of really believe that a lot of this is what it's coming down to.
Yeah. And that's how he's used to doing his business.
Right.
So he's just like, well, it'll work the same way. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It seems like the only way we might get rid of him in 8 years is either if he just, God forbid, I don't wish death on anybody, but if he happens to pass away because of his poor eating habits, or
I ain't saying nothing, because I am not going to be on the list of investigations.
No, I'm saying, like, no, I'm not.
I'm joking.
Saying,
I'm
like,
messing with
that's the
you.
only way he gonna be gone, or this Mueller investigation come through, and I feel like they closing in on him. I feel like Mueller got that Trump card, and he just like, you keep playing with me, I'm getting my cards in order.
Can we just drop it though? What are we waiting on, fam? Like, can we just?
What's his name? What's his lawyer that's about to turn on him? That they feel might turn on him? Is it
Giuliani?
No, the one that they was it. No, it was his personal lawyer or his personal fix-it man that they got the stuff on.
Oh, I did see. I saw a headline. I don't know his name.
I can't remember it right now, but hopefully he turns on him because I feel like he just got a whole bunch of stuff. They trying to close his charity, his Trump Foundation, but yeah, it's so much. And on top of that, the baby daddy cards at Target.
Yeah, see, Target.
That seemed like the most random place to find a baby daddy card. Like Target.
I honestly, you would have thought Walmart, right?
Yeah.
At least I would have thought
I honestly
Walmart.
would have thought Walmart.
I honestly would have thought Walmart. I think that I feel like Target has been so intentional about
being the bougie version of Walmart.
Yeah, and just really trying to attract multiple different demographics. I remember they had, was it like Lil Uzi Vert or it was another one of the guys. It's the other guy with the red hair. I forget his name. But I
have no idea what their names are. I just know they all mumble in their music.
He was in a Target. Target had like a commercial that came out with all these different artists, and it was like trying to target the young people and all this other stuff. And I feel like Target has always been very intentional about being inclusive and trying to invite people in. So what's interesting is this card, to me, it has been, honestly, I just feel like it's in poor taste in general. I've heard people say the argument of like, oh, people are being overly sensitive. It's not that bad. It says baby daddy on the front, but if you open it up, it says like to like my wonderful husband, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, oh, well, you know, if we get over the initial shock of the front of the card, if you open it up, you realize that they're not saying, like, they're using the term, but the inside of the card says that the woman is married. I think for me, what bothers me is that we know that this is a stereotype that other people see about us. And then apparently the woman that posted it, she said out of all of the cards that she saw that was there, the only card that had a black couple represented on it said baby daddy. To me, that's problematic. I just don't think that, maybe if they had the same line of cards and it was like multiple couples, or the couples were like in The Simpsons color yellow, and so, you know, there's no race that you can identify with, if you will. It's kind of like, oh, it's just a cartoon, whatever. But the fact that this had an obvious black couple with dark skin, black couple like hair, you know, I just think we have an issue. I think this is something that we should be talking about a little bit more. And it baffles me that people seem to just be like, oh, you know, whatever. It's interesting. I posed a question to a few different friends, like, hey, you know, are we gonna cancel Target? And all but one of them said absolutely not. And it's interesting. It was pretty funny to me because I was like, I feel like, you know, we all have our things. When we have something that we feel very close to and we really love, it's really hard to pull us from it. And we are not necessarily that we need to cancel Target, but maybe we need to be a little bit more critical. Maybe there's a letter that needs to be written that we need to be like, hey, you know what? You know, I rocks with you, Target, but this is unacceptable. We're not going to do this. Or, you know, let's give a little bit more consideration. While I don't find it completely offensive or completely wrong, I think it's maybe just in poor taste. And maybe we should just be having those conversations with the corporations. I didn't see, from my small sample size, I maybe sent it to like 7 different friends. And literally I got one person that said, yeah, I think we might need to have a conversation about this. Everybody else was like, nope, I don't see the problem here. Like, let's keep it moving. And it was like, but is it because it's Target? Like, I think, had Walmart done this, would we be really like going in on Walmart? I feel like, yeah, for sure I would have.
Well, it's like the Beauty and the Beast picture you sent me with the black man and the white woman.
Right.
It's like people, in all fairness, people call their husbands baby daddy all the time.
Right.
And so it's like, well, if it opens up and say to my husband, it's like people do that. Like that's a thing now. But it's like at the same time, it has such a negative connotation in certain spaces that it's like not the best decision, but it could go either way.
Right.
And like when you sent me that Beauty and the Beast picture, for those who don't know what we're talking about, it was a picture circulating online with a white woman and a black man that got married, and it said Beauty and the Beast. And it's like, that doesn't look right, but I know a lot of men who refer to their wife as the beauty and they're the beast, but they're the same race. So
right.
It's like, we don't like, it's no like, we actually celebrate that. We're like, oh, that's so sweet. But as soon as we see a black woman, a black man, and a white woman, we like, fam, you can't do that.
And yeah, no, seriously, I think that kind of points out how we have to have discussions about, and I really want to, maybe we should do that, try to find like an interracial couple to just kind of dive into the culture of their relationship, because to me, I see something like that, to me, would be like, no, we can't do this. Like, there's certain things just based on the differences of a race and not between you and I. Like, I remember saying, like, I think that I get why she would be comfortable with doing it, because between the two of them, the love that they have, the relationship they have, they can say things like amongst each other and it won't be offensive. But I think it's the additional baggage that comes along with that. So how does her family feel about that? How are people within her family going to respond to, oh, they're like Beauty and the Beast, and then take that to mean, because black men, we're already seen as, hostile and violent and beastly. I go back to when I saw it. I go back to it was the police chief that said about Tamir Rice, people are painting this picture of this docile 12-year-old, but when I looked at him, he looked like a monster. And so I go back to hearing that and thinking like, so this is the reason that we can't say this kind of stuff, because for somebody, this perpetuates this idea that we are beastly, aggressive monsters. And it really only takes them to have that playful, oh, it's so nice idea of him then. And then when the two of them get into an argument, it becomes, oh, he was overly aggressive and he was upset, yada, yada, yada. So I get like why amongst each other they can have that. I kind of would liken it to like, a couple engaging with each other and being like, oh, you so stupid, or shut up, you don't know what you're talking about. And it kind of being something that is like, oh, it's just our casual talk. I'm not meaning to say that he or she is stupid, and I'm also not meaning for them to shut up. It's kind of like just an expression that we used in that moment in a playful way. But if you take it outside of that playful way, you also they're not going to let me come in and be like, I'm telling the dude wife, you stupid, shut up. Or being like, shut your stupid mind up. And he'd be like, wait, hold on, bro, that's my wife. Like, we're not going to do that. Like, what? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I think it's that, it's really like tight. And I think it's really tight when you do it in a public space to say like, oh, Beauty and the Beast, because I feel like somebody that she's even close to, not even just like random internet trolls, but people that they're close to could take that and to kind of make it, to justify it, to use that. And it's like, we already are dealing with this idea of people not seeing our humanity and looking at us as animals. I don't think it's good for us to post that type of thing. I just don't think so. This is me personally. I don't think that's it.
Yeah, definitely. It's like knowing the nuances of your relationship when you decide to make that in the interracial couple. It's like you lose certain freedoms that you would have,
especially publicly too. Because I think it's different. I think
privately you can have that.
Yeah, I think there's a difference because, and maybe it's not fair. And that's why I say maybe we should really talk to an interracial couple, because perhaps it's not fair to have to code switch, if you will, in that way. But I do think that there's a way that you guys can maybe engage with each other and be comfortable in a private space, but doing that publicly is going to kind of garner all these opinions and thoughts and feelings, and it actually may do more damage to your relationship or damage to other relationships like yours that I think it's just kind of, you don't want to do as in poor taste. So yeah.
It's also in interesting. I won't say poor. I'll say interesting because I was about to say in poor taste. Nicki Minaj's comments about her and her creating kind of a culture where women aren't valuing themselves like they should and showing their bodies. And I'm just like, Nicki, I don't know if you should carry that weight on your shoulders. Because that's most of the artists out are dressing the same way. So I don't think people I don't know. It just seemed like I'm not sure, and maybe it's because of me, just the person I am. I don't know how many women just decided to dress provocatively because of Nicki Minaj.
Yeah, I think that I think her statement was something along the lines of like, you know, she realized that strippers and like the Instagram girls, as beautiful as they are, she didn't realize that they would, for the right amount of money, they would like give themselves up to men. And so, or just give themselves up in general. I don't think she said men, but just give themselves up in general. So it's like, if you give them enough money, they'll have sex with you. And she believes that,
but
you know,
ain't people been doing that though?
Right. Right. She feels like they should value themselves more, and she feels, you know, sorry for whatever role she's had and kind of influencing them. And I don't know. I like Nicki Minaj. And so I don't want to it almost seems inauthentic to me, because it seems like she is like reaching for strings of, well, I want people to view me this way, because maybe in the way that people have viewed me, or the way that the mainstream public has kind of been open to me before, you know, I don't really have, and I won't say she doesn't have that lane, but maybe they're not going to be as open to her that way. So it's like, oh, let me be a little bit more clothed now. I think we also have to acknowledge this is after the Paper Magazine issue that came out, when it was like really provocative and people were talking about it and she was justifying it. And so now we see this like switch and change of heart that says, oh, you know, well, I just didn't realize that girls were giving themselves, like, were so easily purchased and all this. I don't really think it's, to me, it seems like there's another motive here, right? Something else is trying to be at play. So it's like, let me try to become, in this time of, and I hate doing this comparison, and honestly, y'all don't like, you know, go in on me for doing this comparison, because I really don't like the comparison of female rappers. But I feel like in the time where there's another rapper, I'm not going to even say her name, I'm saying there's another rapper that seems to have, you say what?
I did her little thing.
Oh.
Okay. Is it? I don't even know how to do it. It seems like it.
But I think in the time where there's another rapper that seems to have like that young lane, if you will, that is about having a good time and partying and stuff like that. I feel like in this era where it seems that people may want to kind of age Nicki Minaj out. Not that they should, or not that she deserves it, but it seems like she kind of is coming about of like, oh, let me be like a voice of reason, and like, oh, you know, we can have fun, but we also have to like respect our bodies and realize that we can be clothed and we don't have to be scantily dressed. And it's kind of like, I mean,
but she's still scantily dressed.
Yeah, like,
That's what if you change your whole get up, it might make sense, but you still continue to do the same. Your get up is the same. So why are you even talking?
Yeah, I think it would just be a little bit more believable had she done this at like the height of her career. And I do think that she's trying to say that the two can exist. I honestly, I didn't read I don't even know if the magazine's out, the whole article, but it was like, obviously, you know, a lot of outlets were circulating like sound bites of, just kind of snippets of what the article said. And so I don't know. I think I got the feeling that she's trying to say that the two can exist together. But I think it's just a little, it just seems a little not really believable. It seems it's not very believable in that you know, at the height of, you know, the second album, like at the Anaconda season, when this was like a big thing, while I think that she can fully, you know, embrace her sexuality and want to do that, I think having her say like, yo, I kind of realized that maybe people are thinking that because sex sells that you actually got to give sex. And it's like, no, this is like a image of, and this is the fantasy, and this is kind of me expressing this one part of me, but there is a completely other side of me that you didn't see on stage or didn't see in the magazine. But I also want to talk about that as well and let you know that it's okay to be there. I feel like if those two were going at the same time, it's fine. But now it seems like, hey, we haven't seen Nicki in a minute. She kind of took this hiatus. She's coming back out. And now she's kind of trying to make like this conscious statement, which isn't bad, and it's cool. And I guess, you know, it's necessary because I'm sure there are younger people that need to hear that look up to her. But it just seems a bit inauthentic because it seems like the timing of this is a little off. Like,
yeah. I think, like I don't know. And I think, you know, I do think that people seeing people they look up to wear kind of revealing clothes and seeming to get more attention can motivate them to do it. And it might not be a personal decision they wanted. They might just have personal insecurities and they want attention. I get that. But I don't know, like you said, if Nicki is really authentic with this.
Yeah.
You know.
And
I think that's where we're at with it. It's like the message is not entirely bad.
Right.
But is this a publicity stunt or is this you?
Right.
Are you a Kim Kardashian-us? Or do you actually care?
Yeah. I not mad at the comparison at all. Not mad at the comparison at all.
I just said that because, you know, Kim is on this new thing of getting people out of prison. So really left field that
which is a whole other conversation. A friend of mine and I had this really, really long conversation about that, which I feel like we could talk for days about it. So yeah, I completely understand the comparison. Like, maybe
it's
you know
a
what?
Good thing, but we just don't understand why though.
You have to. Oh, I feel like one of the things I'll say this real fast. One of the things I was telling my friend is you have to ask why. Specifically when it comes to somebody that is famous for being famous, that has made their empire, built their empire on kind of exploiting things that happen in their lives, in their life, in their personal life, things that oftentimes people be like, oh, that's real personal. And they're just like, oh no, you know, just an open book. And you also start to see that with them being this quote unquote open books and so much stuff happens, E keeps writing like, you know, bigger checks, 19 million, 20 million, like, and they get more seasons of the show. One really has to say, so what's really happening here? And I think it's fair. And I think it's, you know, we can say it's an amazing thing. I think it's an amazing thing. I think it's great. You know, it's no matter what it is, motive or no motive, the fact that she did it is great, but we have to take a moment to say, okay, so what's going on in the background, fam? But you know what?
We're going to make a nice, good season of the show. She's at the White House.
Wonderful season. Like, I mean, I even want to watch, and I don't even watch the show. Like, I just think
because it's good TV. If she got to get those cameras in the White House,
good for TV. I really, yeah, that's really what it is.
You know, it's just like when they were helping Lamar. It just seemed like the most interesting things happened in their life that could be really good for television.
You said it. I didn't have to. But we've been here for a minute. So y'all hit us up and let us know what y'all think about this week's Mimosas and Orange Juice. As always, you guys can find us on Twitter at Brunch Culture and on Instagram at Brunch_Culture. And you can engage with us, on Twitter and Instagram on our social medias and use the hashtag ChatBC. And we will be back for our main dish.
And we are back for our main dish. Today's main dish, we're kind of going to talk about what's been going on in culture with suicide. Randall posed this question as we were preparing for the show: is suicide selfish? And with the recent deaths of Anthony Bourdain and Kate Spade, and looking at did Anthony leave a letter? I haven't heard.
No, I don't. Yeah, I haven't heard that he's left one.
He's left a letter, which could feed into the conversation about it being selfish, because we don't know why he did what he did. So it kind of leaves the, it's like, dang, we everybody thought you was good. From what I've heard, people was like, it kind of took them off guard.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't even leave an explanation. So it's like, dang, like, at least leave us a note so we'll know, But Kate Spade left a note, and, she was having issues in her marriage. Her husband said they had been living separately for a while. They kind of, fluctuate. Their daughter kind of lived between the houses that weren't far from each other. And, she told her apologized to her daughter in her note, and then, was like, ask your dad. And so it's like, man, you left, and which was really interesting. And it's like, when people tell you, like, check on your strong friend, you see those memes going around, and it was like, man, these people, her dad said he had spoke to her just like some hours before, I guess, she made the decision, and she was talking about going on a trip. So it's like, you could really be in constant communication with a person and still not know.
Right.
Like, that they could, talk about stuff they're going to do in the future and throw you completely off. It's really kind of hard to, know what a person's going to do if they don't want you to know. Because a part of like wrestling with depression is making yourself distant from other people. So it's kind of hard, unless you're with people on a daily basis, to know that. And I'm talking about with them in person. Right. So, like, people like check on your strong friend and they text them and be like, you all right, fam? I'm just like, I don't know if that's going to really do the trick. Do you know how this works?
Right.
People can't, you have to, like, physically be around somebody sometimes to know the signs, or, be in the environment. Because texting, you can hide behind that, just day. Anyway. But yeah. So, how do you feel about, I know I gave that intro that really didn't have that much to do with the first question, but it's just things that were coming to my mind as I was processing this. But do you think that suicide is selfish, or why do you think people even think it's selfish?
So I think that when we talk about suicide, first off, I can say, and I actually thought about this from just conversations that I've been having, I think that it's a selfish act. I definitely think that suicide is a selfish act. I think in that moment, the reason I say, I'll give more context. The reason I say that it's a selfish act is because there are so many people that are affected and that will have questions and that will want to have been there, wanted to have stopped you, and that in many cases do love you, that don't want to see this happen. And so it's selfish to not consider them. But I say that, and I also think that, saying that we can't just say that it's selfish and kind of put a blame on a person, because in that way they are a victim, and they're a victim of being depressed. They're a victim of not being able to see themselves out of whatever circumstances or hurt that they're in that causes them to take their own life. And so I think in saying that, that's kind of where, for me, it's like, while I do think that the act in itself is selfish, I think, context is king. When you consider the weight and the severity of depression, you start having to recognize that they didn't do it because they were only thinking about themselves, in their mind, right? In that space, in that really dark space, they're thinking about everything and everybody else, and thinking about how maybe in some cases that they can remove themselves from the situation, so that other people don't have to deal with it, so that they don't have to be a burden to other people. I don't think I've ever really talked about this on the show, but like I had like a really, really dark time in college. And I was in a very, very dark place to kind of be in the same situation without going too deep into it. And I know that for me, my mindset wasn't, there was no, because of what I was facing and dealing with, there was no way that in my mind it made sense that anybody else could care about my existence or not. And you know, being removed from it, telling close friends and family members about the experience, and then being like, oh my gosh, like, no, you were so important to me and I loved you and yada, yada, yada. And it's like, all of those things sound great, but in that space, none of that meant anything. Right. And it was a place of kind of being isolated, for a long time, and not really being able to articulate or to get out of my feelings. And so that's why I say I believe, you know, years after, or kind of being removed from that dark place, that suicide in itself is selfish. But I think when you consider the state of mind that the person is, we can't put the weight of that selfish act on them, because they are not themselves. They are not, you know, the jovial person, or the person that is just kind of, you know, has the right tools to deal with or to cope. They really are just a completely different dark person in a dark space that can't see themselves out of that. And so I think that when we have conversations about suicide, for people that are quick to say that, you know, that's selfish, or, you know, especially in like Kate Spade's situation, where people say, oh, did she consider her daughter? How could she do this and not consider the life that her daughter would have? Honestly, she probably was considering the life that her daughter could have, and consider the fact that who she was, how she was in that dark and depressive state, and not being able to get out of it, what that would do to her daughter with her being there. So it's almost, it could have been, you know, this idea that if I just remove myself from the situation, this sets her up to have a better life. Perhaps this sets her up to have a better mom. I know that it said that her suicide came or her depression came as a result of her going through a divorce. Potentially she could have thought, like, maybe me not being here leaves room for somebody else to come in and give her all of the things that I can't give her. Like, and there's so many things that could have been going on at that time that I think, you know, making a statement of suicide being selfish is not, we can't just stop there. We have to also think about, you know, the state of mind of that person. And then in terms of us dealing with it, and in terms of us as, you know, people that are trying to be support systems, or having people that we're connected to that we love and care about, we have to think about it, you know, and be sensitive to their mindset, their mental state. Like, you know, this is not the person. We're not dealing with the person that we were probably just going out and hang out with and laugh with, or the person that I have like this long, extensive history with, or to go back to like the strong friend. I'm not dealing with the strong friend that can handle everything in this moment. I'm dealing with the friend that has been trying constantly, because they are the quote unquote strong friend, that's been trying constantly to manage this space or this feeling that they have in this mindset, but they can't. And so I'm no longer dealing with the strong friend. I'm dealing with the friend that needs help. I'm dealing with the endangered friend. I'm dealing with the friend that really needs, you know, some sort of help to get them out of that space. And the help that they needed, the right help for the right person, it varies, and it's just really different things. So yeah, I don't think that when we answer the question of like, is it suicide selfish? I think that it is, but I think that we can't look at it that way.
Yeah. And it's to your point about, I saw a friend of mine get upset about the strong friend comment, because it's like, I think there's different levels of strength. So when I
Right.
think somebody's strong, I'm honestly only identifying a certain dynamic of them
Right.
or a certain attribute they have, because nobody's strong in every area.
Right.
So it could be just a friend that seems like the life of the party. And sometimes the people that are the life of the party are the weakest emotionally.
Right.
And so it's like, there's really the right context for that, I think is hard. Because there's really no strong person across the board. You're only seeing what you call strength. Another person may be saying, oh no. We know people like that we be like, people look up to them and we be like, no.
They jacked up.
Or, you know, some people look up to me in certain areas, and then I have areas that are not as great as the area people might look up to me in. So it's kind of like, yeah, that's a strength, but I have a weakness here. So it's kind of like, depending on what side you're looking at, I might be weak or strong. So it's
Exactly.
really, it's your perception or what level you know me at. Because the deeper you know people, you realize that everybody weak.
In some area. Yeah. Because we're not, and I think we have a tendency as people, and I think this is kind of what kind of promotes or perpetuates isolation, depression, not being able to self-analyze and really be able to verbally say that I need help in what's going on. We have a tendency to just think that people are good in every area because they're good in one area, or they're good in a public space. And so, you know, especially with money, when we have people that have money or that have obtained some sort of, public recognition, we think that they're good. Especially people that attain that way and not entertainment way. I think that because, you know, social media has made people popular, I don't want to say easily, but, you know, we have a lot of different people that have attained a level of like social media success. I think we can kind of look at those people and still view them as human, but I think it's the people that are your politicians, the people that seem a little larger than life, your entertainers, your major entertainers, the people that seem so far away from you and that have so much going on. We think that they have, you know, just everything in line, and like everything is so good. And if they do have a problem, their money can buy them help, right? I know that I've definitely even used that statement. You ain't got no real problems for real. You got whatever problems you have, call somebody, you can pay somebody and they can fix it for you. But the truth of the matter is that's not true. Like, they have the same struggles that we have. And in some cases, because of the general like expectation of our minds is that people are just fine because they've quote unquote made it, we separate ourselves from them. So we're not thinking about having, you know, intimate conversations with them. We're not thinking about, hey, like, let's just spend time existing together, like, or let's just have a conversation about your thoughts on your day or your thoughts on your relationship with your mom, your dad, your best friend, whatever. Like, we're not thinking of doing that. People around them probably aren't thinking of doing that because the people around them are likely working for them. And so there is this, we kind of create this environment where probably the most vulnerable people are the most known. The most vulnerable people are the most successful, because they find themselves being alone in their thoughts, feeling like, you know, everybody around them wants something, or they have to meet a certain standard. They have to uphold a certain image. I can only...
That's what happened.
Go ahead.
That's what happened with Kate Spade. Her sister said that Kate has been going through emotional issues for a long time, but she feared what people would think and what it would do to her image if she addressed those publicly. Yeah. And even was kind of afraid to like get the help she needed because of the popularity and the fame she had. And that speaks to exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. And it honestly, it makes perfect sense though, because people have built, so her livelihood was built on a brand. It's built on
a lifestyle brand.
A lifestyle, right. It's built on who the public knows her to be. And so when that is somehow infiltrated or shaken and not what the expectation is, we can only imagine that the person goes through some sort of like change, and not everybody is able to deal with that, because you think about this will affect my life, this will affect my family's life, this will affect my child's life. I'm trying to do this to further, to better myself, but also to further my family and to kind of set my entire family up. So it's like I got the weight of all of these people on my shoulders, and truthfully, I'm not the person that the public has believed me to be, or my situation is no longer the way that the public thought it was. And so I could potentially lose all of this. Just thinking about it, theoretically, that's hard, like how I can't even imagine that. I think that one of the things that I remember growing up and I always wanted to be, I was like, oh, I want to be an entertainer. I was like just enthralled with celebrities, and I thought it was so amazing. But I think that as I started to grow, I realized the struggles that they had. Some of my favorite groups or my favorite celebrities or entertainers, thankfully, would start to talk about, the struggles that they had being in the limelight, or how, their best friends and them fell out, or, they lost loved ones, family members, and relationships and stuff like that. And it kind of made me think like, dang, like, I always thought this was so amazing, but I don't know how I feel about it now. And it's like, as just a regular citizen, you have the luxury of privacy. And so because of that, you can go through things and realize, honestly, if I gain 10 pounds this month and then lose 20 pounds next month, outside of my, crazy family being like, you sure you ain't on nothing? Don't nobody really care. But imagine if I've built my brand on fitness, right? And I just went through a very dark time and I gained a bunch of weight. Well, people not buying my stuff no more, right? I can't talk about my fitness in that way. And so I'm losing money. And that's not only affecting me, but that's affecting my employees, my family, it's everybody that's around me. It's not going to be the same. Like, I don't have, how do I manage this? Like, I can't do that. And so I feel like there's this trade-off of being famous, if you will, that you give up a degree of privacy. But what that does is it makes you more susceptible to having a mental breakdown and having all these like mental struggles that you may not be able to get through, depending on like the own skills that you have, and then just the people that you have around you. Like, it's not as glamorous as we think. And I think society just kind of creates a space where those people can be harmed even more, because we all think that they're good because they got money, or people know them. Like, oh, can't be too much wrong with you. Like, yeah, you got to be fine.
Yeah. And that is indeed where the problem lies in, because then that's more pressure on you. Because I think what's interesting about the Kate Spade thing is that it was her husband's idea for her to start with the bags. Like, that wasn't like an idea she had. It wasn't like necessarily her passion. And so, there's so many levels that could go into that. Like, you pushed me to this, and now we're not together, and I'm still in it, but I'm in it with a person that didn't help me get started,
Right.
We're still like in business together in a sense, but we're not together. So, and if she already had those tendencies as far as, struggling with mental illness, it's kind of like, that could be an extra layer of, it's like, man, this kind of just magnified, if you're dealing with, if this is something that's been a lifelong struggle for her, this only magnifies it for you. This doesn't help you at all.
Right.
And so, it's just interesting. But a question that I have been talking about with people is every time somebody commits suicide, is it mental illness? And it's kind of a hard question to answer, because for many, like, if you don't see any signs beforehand, you can't ask them, after they did it, you know, because they're gone. Like, there's no evaluation process. But is it always, do you think it's always mental illness when a person kills themselves? Or could they just be, you know, just on some other stuff?
So, you know, I really struggle because I think that when we think of mental illness, the first thing that we all go to is depression. It's just like, oh, they depressed. To me, I think that maybe you aren't depressed, but just kind of like wanting the attention of somebody, that too, in that space, and wanting it so bad that it causes you to make a statement by taking your life. I think that is a form of mental illness, and I wouldn't know what to diagnose it as or to call it, but to me, like, something is not right. So one of the reasons, did you ever watch the show 13 Reasons Why on Netflix?
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, so I started watching, I just couldn't watch it. There's a number of, we could actually probably do like 10 episodes on why I don't like that show. But so one of the things for me, and I didn't watch the whole season, and I know people, the whole first season, I know they have a second season, they just got approved for a third season. And I know a lot of people say you got to watch the whole thing in order to get it, yada, yada, yada. One of the things for me that was the reason that I just refused to watch it was it almost felt like in watching it that her committing suicide was punishing them. And she was saying that it's your fault, it's this person's fault, and that person's fault, and that person's fault, and these are all the things that you guys did that led to my suicide. And I want to leave these tapes behind so you guys understand what happened. And you can kind of sit with that guilt of, it's your fault that I died. And it's that part of it to me that just seems like, not necessarily that it's glorified, but it really is like using something so severe as taking your own life and using it as a weapon to kind of hurt somebody else. And it seems a bit attention seeking, but it also seems like, you know, this is just a very twisted way of reprimanding people that I don't like, and it's not comfortable with me, and I'm not comfortable with it being in that space. So I feel like with that character, I could say that, you know, I think that maybe she was a little mentally ill, but I don't think that, or at least from what I saw, it didn't seem that she was depressed, because she went out and recorded these tapes in like the spaces, and they were very specific. Like each tape had like a person's name on it. So she was very like calculated and thought out in doing this to prove a point to each individual person. But nowhere through that process did it click or dawn on her that, hey, me actually taking my life would affect all of these people in maybe like an irreparable way. Like they're not going to be able to get over this. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel that I have your blood, the blood of your life on my hands, and that's forever. I can't get rid of that because you're done. That part, I really, really don't like it. And so I think that I can say like, hey, you know, mentally something's not there because your life is permanent. These situations are not permanent. This feeling that you have is not permanent. That's why I'll say like, oh, you know, I think there is some sort of like mental illness to that, but I don't think that that is equivalent to being depressed, at least in the way that I'm thinking about this show. From what I saw, I don't think that that's equivalent to being depressed, because to me, I don't know that it had to take months for her to do this. So it's like you're planning your suicide for months. I think that from what I know about people that do, like, people have tried to commit suicide and they've been unsuccessful, but there's something that pulls them back. Or at least they realize that they weren't able to do it. And it's not something that they're trying to say like, oh, well, you know what, let me like call in Billy and let me schedule this up with Billy. And then if I can get, Jasmine in, and if I can get Tommy in, if I can get Gloria in, and I can get all these people in, and I can, you know, show them not that I'm trying to commit suicide at all these times, but like I'm preparing for this one time that I'm going to try and I'm going to be successful at doing it. And I'm going to leave these tapes behind. Like, it just seems like this is it's that part that's uncomfortable for me. And I don't know. I think we could call it like a mental illness, but I don't really know that it is the same weight as somebody being like depressed and doing it, or somebody really not being able to escape their situation, and just really just trying to prove a point to people, which to me is not, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's so complex. You know, I remember when we had a family friend that committed suicide, and it was like a little over a year ago, and it just really, it threw everybody off. But then it was just like, but we saw that he had been like kind of in the dark, you know, in a dark space. He wasn't, the last time we saw him, he wasn't necessarily like seemed the most upbeat, but he did always kind of have a melancholy personality.
Right.
So it's like, you can't really tell, like, you know, I'm a person that is not very expressive emotionally, you know. That's just not me. Doesn't matter if I'm extremely excited or sad, I'm probably going to have a consistent emotion. So you're not going to know. And so it's very hard, you know, when you're engaging people like that. But right. I going back to like whether mental illness is like the necessarily a choice is the culprit for every suicide. It's like, is it the buzzword, you know, when we hear like it goes back to like people's challenge with like saying all school shootings are mental illness, you know?
Right, like, right.
And we're like, oh no, that's your scapegoat to see that, you know, this person is actually, they were very conscious of what they were doing. And right. So then you have people that are kill themselves, you know, we have suicide bombers, we have people that do it for, you know, malicious reasons to hurt other people intentionally. We have people that do it because they are trying to get out of situations where they've done bad stuff and they don't want to suffer the consequences for those things, so they just take their own life to escape those consequences. So it's so many different dynamics, but I think Kate Spade and Anthony Bourdain's case, we definitely could see, you know, well, not in Anthony. It's just, it strikes me, and I guess that's what we were talking about earlier, like celebrities. People talked about like how excited about life he was, and right. Then his show, it's like you see that coming, like permeating throughout his show, and then you see like he's on this journey and he's having so much fun, and we think, man, if I only had his life. I saw numerous people saying, man, Anthony Bourdain was living the life I wanted. Yeah, because you're traveling, you're getting paid. Somebody is paying you and paying for all expenses paid to travel, to learn different cultures. One of my friends and I, when it first came out, we were talking, and we started to talk about, wow, we think that the answer to elevating our mindset, to elevating, you know, our lives is travel, right? Going to experience different cultures, learning about different people, expanding your mind, realizing that your way of life, your beliefs are not the only way. And I think that oftentimes, especially as people from the South, Southern Americans, we have a tendency to really only view the world through our own lens and think that anything that's remotely different is just wrong. And so our standard of kind of having a better life and escaping, you know, depression, escaping poverty, is to be able to travel and expose yourself to different things. Here is somebody that their life was doing that. And it's like, whoa, it really makes you like just kind of take it back. It kind of jacked up my whole way of thinking, because I was like, man, this is somebody that I would expect to have an understanding of, you know, depression. I would expect to know how like depression or whatever it is can lead to suicide. I would expect them to have a very healthy
understanding of suicide and what happens when a person commits suicide, what happens to, you know, their family, what happens to their co-workers, their jobs, whatever. Like, everybody that touches your life, I would expect this person to have a healthy understanding of that. And so because of that healthy understanding, this would not be an option for them. And then this was an option. And this is an option for somebody that is on CNN, like a huge station that so many people follow. And they've had a career of being on, the Travel Channel and all of these different things. Like, he's been a chef and he's built this career. It's not something that we would expect. And so it kind of jacks up what I thought was kind of the answer to getting out of that. I thought that, you know, people want to commit suicide when they can't see themselves out of a situation. Well, this is a person that knew that he was at least physically going to be out of a situation, right? And I would think, just from the exposure to different types of people and cultures, that you also knew that, you know, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, you'll be out of whatever situation it was. So it's one of those things that it just kind of like it really jacked me up, because it's like, this is what you would think the ideal life is. Maybe if you're not a person that wants to travel, but I think everybody can agree that kind of being paid to eat and give comments on like eating and different experiences seems to be perfect, especially for us millennials. Like, that's what we doing. Like, that's what we want to do. Like, you're gonna
definitely give credence to though Bow Wow's thing when he was on Breakfast Club and said he did everything. Like, he's traveled the world a couple times, and it's like, what are you talking about, Bow Wow? Still much more to do. And it sounded crazy when he said it, but now, like, that Anthony Bourdain has taken his life, it kind of connects the dots in that way. I don't know.
That's a good point. No. That's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. That's a really good point. Like, it does. Like, I think we kind of like look at Bow Wow in like this joking way. And I remember listening to Jermaine Dupri say, like, you know, when you talk about the legends and the greats, they're older, like adult grown guys that haven't done half of what Bow Wow has done. And he is done that by such a young age. And so we kind of like joke about it. But for him, he probably feels like he's done everything. What else is there to do? I've been everywhere. I've, you know, had people scream and faint. Girls used to faint for me. People used to faint for Michael Jackson. Like, I've had that Michael Jackson experience. What else is there for me to do? And honestly, until you just made that connection, I didn't even think about that. But that's true. Like, that's really big.
Yeah, it's like, wow, you really do think like, wow, why would you do that? And then he's like, but what is there to do? I think about like something simple. If you're from Jacksonville and like me and Randall, you know, like going to Orlando is nothing. Like, that's where people go. And this is like when people are from like the north and they're like, oh, we going to Orlando. It's just like, oh, okay. Oh, like, I already done that so many times. And it's like, but everybody else who lives far from Florida thinks it's this big thing. But once you've already done it multiple times, it's like, I don't want to do that. And so I couldn't imagine having that feeling for every place, you know, in the world. Like, oh, I already did that, fam. Like, well, do it again. For what? Like,
and I think too, if you think about a lot of the ways, and this, honestly, I just thought about this as you were talking, a lot of the ways that many of us probably get out of our dark and depressive moments or just kind of like sad moments, right? Down moments, is ambition and dreaming and dreaming of a day where our situation is going to be different, and dreaming of the day where we will be able to kick back on a beach somewhere, 3 weeks a month and just relax, where our money is making money for us or whatever it is. Like, we can retire and all of this stuff. But imagine having all of that and still not being like mentally okay or emotionally okay. I think that it challenges that with Anthony Bourdain, the Bow Wow situation. It really challenges how we find stability emotionally, escape. Mentally, escape. Yeah, it just kind of challenges how we find that, because I know for myself, I've I've looked at certain situations and been down, and I've had a tendency to see myself outside of that and be like, okay, so one day I'm going to be over this. One day I'm going to, have a better position, or have a better position in life, or be successful in this area. I've even had to check myself, and this just reminded me, a lot of times that I escaped like the troubles of my childhood was by dreaming of being successful, and what my definition of success was then. And it's interesting because in this moment I'm thinking about it like, wow, even that is not good, because what if I keep dreaming about all of these things of quote unquote success, and those things don't come and the feelings are still there? Then what do I do? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you just backed yourself into a dead end. And at that point you feel like nothing's out, because it's like, oh, I've been trying for this one thing for so long and I ain't there. Like, how do you get there? So
yeah, it's crazy because as you're talking about that, like, I remember TD Jakes saying, like, what do you anticipate success to feel like? Like, what do you think it should feel like? And he was like, whatever you think it should feel like, it's never going to feel like that. And most people become depressed when they get the success they wanted, because it never feels like what they wanted it to feel like.
Right.
I think a certain level of completeness, and it's so funny because a lot of things that I've been pushing for, I was just telling somebody this the other day, a lot of things I was pushing for is happening, but it doesn't feel like I thought it would feel.
Right.
And I'm just like, now I got to get to the next milestone.
Right.
And it's like, if I keep living like that, then I'll get to a place where there's nothing left to achieve. And then it's like, well, now what?
Now what?
Like,
yeah.
Because I didn't even enjoy the ride. I remember Diddy saying that he missed most of his great moments because he was plotting for his next move.
Yeah. And I definitely know what that is. I feel like that is. I feel like we've talked about it on the show, before. Like,
that's a young professional's everyday life.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is really our life in so many ways. Like, we have these great things. We have these moments where these things that we wanted so bad at once upon a time, and it was like, oh, I just want to get there, and then you're there and you're living in it and you're excelling at it, and it's like, wait, so what's next? And now I was having a conversation this past weekend, and I was telling somebody about what I do like professionally, and what I've been able to do, and kind of like things that I'm doing on the side. And after all of this mouthful of stuff that I've said, they said, what's next? And immediately there was this feeling of like, dang, I gotta, like, you reminded me that there's still so much more I gotta do. And like, what am I doing? And I kind of started to put pressure on myself immediately after that conversation of like, okay, you gotta go and you gotta push here and you gotta do this, you gotta do this. And it was like, no, like, no, what's next? I don't know what's next at this moment, right? Like, I'm really trying to focus on this. I'm trying to hone this thing, but we'll see. And that's okay. But I think as young professionals, that is scary as heck to be like, I don't know what's next, and I don't see next on the horizon at this moment. Like, wait, what?
And you know what's crazy? It's like when you are successful and people feel like they're not doing a lot, they want to push you to your next because subconsciously they're living vicariously through you. Right. And I think that could happen a lot of times in our families, with our friendship relationships, especially if you're the most successful person in your circle or a successful person in your family. People are pushing you to another height, or what's next, because they're trying to achieve subconsciously through you. Yeah. And that happens a lot of time with Black young professionals, especially.
Yeah. This has really been I honestly didn't expect me to have all these like aha moments in this conversation, but I really feel like we just kind of brought out a lot just from talking about it. And it's really interesting too. And this is why I'm glad that we had this conversation, is that I think, again, it's very easy for us to say, somebody committed suicide because of mental health issues. And so if I'm going to see a therapist, I'm fine. Right? Because I'm addressing my mental health. but it's not just that, right? That's not.
Yeah, and the crazy side note before, I'm sorry to interrupt, but more people are going to therapy. It's more trendy than ever.
Right.
We're proponents of it. We talk about it all the time. I have one that I see once a week for my own personal, just to be strong mentally, physically, and emotionally. And it's trendy, but the suicide rates are going up and not down.
Yeah. And I think it's because we have this like blanket approach to, oh yes, mental health, people are depressed, and not realizing that there's so many other things that go into it. And we don't feel depressed, but as we talked about it before, if we keep mentally setting ourselves up to be successful and we're going to feel this way, or we're going to have this and life is going to be this way once we reach quote unquote success, but when we reach it and it don't happen, then we don't feel differently than what happens at that point. What's our out? Or if we don't reach that definition of success that we had, and there's no, and we've been trying for 800 years, and that's just not the level of success we were supposed to have. Our success was supposed to look like this, or we're supposed to find success in this other area, which we did. What do we do then? Like, what if we still feel the same way as we did in those dark moments? I think that is something that we don't consider, we don't talk about, we don't think about. And I'm really glad that we brought the conversation here to brunch culture, because I think that that's something that as young professionals, we have to be mindful of. We are so success driven. We are so prone to, just trying to, making sure that we're doing all the things. So being trendy of, hey, I got a therapist. I'm happy that I just found a therapist and I'm really excited. And so like, I'm like, oh, I got a therapist too. But having the therapist is not the only answer, right? Like, and that's not just it. Like, you can have the therapist, but there's other things in your life that you got to be doing, and we don't talk about that. And so I'm glad that we just recognize that.
It's crazy because before we end, my this just came to my thought. I asked my therapist that question. I was like, how is it that suicide rates are going up and more people are in therapy? And she was like, just because they're in it doesn't mean they're doing the work.
Yeah.
And so it's like, she was like, it may be trendy, but a lot of people come to me and they don't want to do the work to deal with these issues. And so they're just coming, but they don't want to do, it's like you going to school. You can enroll in school,
and
but if you're not going to do the homework, you're not going to graduate. Yeah. And so she's like, people are coming, but they're not doing the work because the work is painful and it takes time to look at yourself and look at situations that you're not comfortable with.
Right.
And so they just come, and that's how to say they did it.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow.
That's really dope. Well, you guys definitely hit us up and let us know what your thoughts are on suicide and mental health, and just also let's share some tips of things that you're doing to like keep yourself emotionally, spiritually, physically sound. Use the hashtag ChatBC. Hit us up on Twitter at Brunch Culture, on Instagram at Brunch_Culture, and we will be back with our toast to roast. All right, and we're back with our toast or roast. This week, I am going to be toasting to a book that I've actually had in Audible for a while now, probably since it came out. I used like my free Audible credits to get it, and I hadn't listened to it until I was just driving back to DC from Florida, and it is Charlemagne the God's book, Black Privilege, Opportunity Comes to Those Who Create It. I'm listening to the audio version of it, and honestly, this book has been incredible. Surprisingly to me, honestly, I didn't really have much expectations from it. To be quite honest, I thought I was going to listen to it for about 20 minutes and then cut it off because of boredom. And I think that I expected this book to be written for really young people, almost like teenage age, like high school graduates, and people that just wanted to be like radio jockeys in entertainment. And I thought it was going to be kind of like a lot of, if you want to be successful, you just have to wake up and work hard. Like, I really thought it was going to be very simple stuff. And there's a part of, like, listening to the book, I think it is trying to speak to those very young people too. But I think there's a lot of nuggets and tools in here that are universal, and that no matter what career field you're in, no matter what area you're in, honestly, even as podcasters, I feel like he gave a lot of nuggets and a lot of things that kind of like check me up. And I also like the way and the language that he uses. It is very Charlemagne, just talking to you as Charlemagne, and using his normal Southern twang and curse words and things that, you know, I identify with. And so I feel like this is kind of like somebody that, you know, has found success in a non-conventional way, but still in a conventional way, if that makes any sense. And they're basically sharing their story, but they're also giving you a lot of tools that you can use in every aspect of life, and just kind of challenging you to be better, challenging you to not, you know, talk about something and really be about it. To say that you want something, and then to really just put a mirror up in your face and say, okay, so you say you want it, so where is it? How bad are you working to get it? But not just run yourself in the ground to try to get it. Have that balance of self-care too. Like, you got to take care of yourself. You gotta, you know, eat right, exercise, get some reading in, actually read some good stuff, feed your soul, reading the Bible. He says he reads the Bible sometimes he's reading the Quran, or he's reading like inspirational quotes. And so it's like they're being intentional about feeding their soul and the non-physical portion of them, as well as the physical portion, but also being driven to like work hard and surrounding themselves with people that are doing it too. So I think the book is really good. If you guys don't have it, haven't read it or heard it, I definitely say check it out. You can go to Audible. This is like a really shameless plug, only because this is how I got the book. Audible has like a free month subscription. You can get one free book. So if you don't use Audible already, try that. And they're not paying us for that, although we should try to get them to. But yo, and also the libraries, been putting my friends on the libraries, like, yo, I got a library card, a local library card. That's good too, because they have ebooks and audiobooks. So, yeah, if you guys want to check it out, I definitely, everybody, no matter what field you're in, I'd say check it out. And I think it's really good. So that's my toast for this week.
I need to get on Audible books. I haven't been on that, but I feel like I need to. I think it's a great way to read.
Yeah, especially when you're traveling a lot like you do. I think that's good.
So I want to toast to something that is not as helpful as Randall's toast, but Zoe's Mediterranean Kitchen. I'm late discovering this. I don't know if they're everywhere. Are they in DC?
I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Oh, well, it's a chain. I know they had them in Lynchburg when I lived there, but they have them in Jacksonville. And it's just really good, fresh food. I get the salmon kebabs. They have them in Alexandria. Or Arlington. One of them. But, yeah, with cauliflower rice and roasted vegetables. Because I'm on this health kick. I'm working out. I'm really proud of myself for being consistent. But that's been my saving grace, even though you're still hungry after you eat it. Because cauliflower rice, while it may taste similar, it doesn't give you that same feeling. So toast to them for helping me on my weight loss journey. I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not where I used to be. So,
hey, man,
thank God for that.
Yes. Maybe we should do like a joint challenge together, like to hold each other accountable. Because I've really been trying to get back into it. So maybe we can share some tips.
This challenge going to be, because sometimes I get a frost.
Oh, no, it's fine. So, you know, was it Kelly Rowland, my wife, she taught me this, like the 80-20 rule.
Tell your wife to get her friend under control, Kim Kardashian. Side note.
Wait, that's not really her friend. They're acquaintances. That's a whole other thing. But she taught me the 80-20 rule. Like 80% of the time you be real good. 20% of the time you let yourself cheat with reason. So like you don't go to the buffet and stay there for 5 hours, but you might be like, hey, you know what, this day or this meal, I'm going to have, you know, whatever. But then I'm going to make sure like my other 2 meals and my snacks are really healthy. And then I'm going to do like an extra mile in the gym to kind of make up for this. You know, it's kind of that thing. But maybe we can kind of do that. Cause I really do. Yo, I've been looking at these pictures and I naturally have fat cheeks, but these cheeks are a little, like, my face is a little more plump than I want it to be. And I'm like, all right, man, Jesus.
Yeah. I'm excited. I try to do an hour on the bike. So I've been doing the cycling thing on the stationary bike. An hour on that. I used to think I couldn't, but it's 50 minutes, but I've gotten adjusted to it. So I've been doing it almost every day.
Nice.
And some other, exercises after. So I usually do about an hour and 15 minutes in total. And then try not to eat any bread or just drinking water. It's really been helpful. Every now and again, if I need a treat, I'll get a small Frosty because I feel like that can't be that bad.
Okay. All right. It's about balance. Good balance.
Yeah, not every day, but maybe once a week.
Yeah.
Just to keep me motivated. But we're going to leave y'all with today's good vibe. Today's good vibe is from Winston Churchill. The pessimist sees difficulty in every opportunity. The optimist sees opportunity in every difficulty.
Amazing. Incredibly weird because this quote, without even knowing, Lisa hasn't read Charlamagne's book yet, but that is a quote that Charlamagne uses in the book. And that's one of the quotes that I saved, like with Audible, you can save like a 30-minute clip to make a note of. And I saved it because I was like, yo, this quote is amazing. This speaks to me. I always like to view myself as an optimist, but oftentimes I'll look at opportunities and start thinking about all of the challenges and I'll kind of like talk myself out of it, which is really fear. And Lisa gave that quote and I was just like, whoa, wait, hold on. This is weird. I literally just saved this quote. Like, I just saved this. Yeah, we are in sync. Like, I just saved it. And I feel like it's really like, that's one of those moments where God is like throwing out nuggets to you and like, hey. And it's like you get it in more than one place. And it's like, yo, this means something. I got to take this in. So the good vibe is amazing. I think this is probably one of my favorite good vibe moments because of how it came about. But as always, guys, with the good vibes, make sure that you guys are taking this in for yourself throughout the week and also sharing it with other people. We definitely appreciate you guys for just listening to our show, but also spreading the news about the show. And I think that the good vibe is one of the easy ways that I know one friend of mine always tells me that like when she always gets the good vibe and she tries to like apply it or write it down so she remembers it for the week. So you guys carry on and carry it out and share it with some people this week. And that's going to wrap up this episode of Brunch Culture. As always, you guys know where to find us on www.brunchculturebc.com is our website. We can be found on Twitter at Brunch Culture and on Instagram at Brunch_culture. You guys are the best. Our Brunch Culture family are amazing. If you guys have been listening, please continue to share with other people. Make sure that you guys subscribe and comment, subscribe to us on iTunes, leave us some comments, rate us, and just let everybody that may stumble upon the show or find the show know how you feel about it. As always, thank you guys so much for listening to us, and as always, hey, here at Brunch Culture, everything is up for discussion.